Answers with Dr. Reju is a platform where we take a more in-depth and intentional look into various life issues and bring clarification so we can navigate our way through with knowledge. Join us on Patrice Radio as we take this journey to discovery. Do remember to follow, like, and engage us on Instagram at Patrice_radio and also on YouTube via Patrice Radio Live. Thank you.
Better Nigeria. Is it a myth or do we keep hoping?
Nigeria is a highly religious country. How come corruption thrives?
Why is adoption not encouraged in Nigeria?
Is there a future for the Nigerian youth?
Being rich and famous, is that the only drive to be an artist?
What makes a great nation? Is it the leaders? What about the people?
This is Answers with Dr. Reju. Hi, my name is Onari. And this is Answers with Dr. Reju, where critical life issues are clarified. Today, it's a special day. We have a group of businessmen who meet together to bounce ideas, as well as our regulars. Obi Brown, you're welcome to the program. You. Adam Slojok.
Thank you.
And Dr. Reju.
Thank you.
Now, we've talked about a lot that relates to business over the past. But today, like I said, it's special. We're going to be rounding off with the crux of the matter, on business, which is business financing. Please introduce yourself.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Segun Bolagun. I'm a school administrator here in Jos.
Okay.
Businesses generally, and especially with school business, especially when you are not established yet, you have a lot of things to battle with. Getting money for business. My question would be looking at the terrain everywhere. What are the most ethical approaches getting money for a school that is just starting, does not have name, does not have many students? What are several opportunities for startup businesses or growing business to actually get money?
All right, thank you, Segun. I will approach that again in a way that will remind us of the whole idea of business when we started out, that business must first of all be a product of an aspiring businessman seeing a need. Now, in that kind of place, is there a need for education? Is there something you want to add to what is already existing? Is there a different way that you want to do that? Now, that is what is going to inform whatsoever you bring up as a proposer to maybe an aspiring investor, right? And because you've asked this question, particularly because it has to do with school, because school is a kind of a unique business, but we can take that kind of principle and generalize it. Having established that, now, the unfortunate thing in our environment is that we don't have banks who do banking business. Most of the banks in Nigeria are not banks, they are vaults. That's what I call them. That, first of all, is a huge challenge for business finance. Now, if you're going into something that has to do with school that has a lifespan of growth, and which growth is not that fast, it might not be too attractive to an investor. What I advise, and which we can also apply to a lot of other business when it has to do with finance, is that you want to start this business as small as possible, because the Nigerian environment when it has to do with finance is very hostile. It's very, very hostile. So you don't want to start with a lot of pressure that what you are thinking about is not how to provide service but how to pay debt. You want to start as small as possible. That comes with its own challenges, because honestly you can start a school without any money if you pay your rent in your house, right? My wife and I started the daycare right in our sitting room. We waited for a very long time, to start this daycare. We were waiting to start, and we couldn't start because there was no money, And there was a particular day we had the doorbell rang, and this woman came in because she had my wife somewhere that my wife wanted to start a daycare, and that day she had to go to work, and she doesn't know where to put this boy. And she brought the boy to the house, and they said, "Today you are starting." That was how our sitting room became a crèche. So there was no cost. The only cost was that this boy disturbs me in the morning when I want to do some study. But I'm saying that you don't want to put yourself under that pressure of going into debt The idea of starting a business as small as possible works for every kind of business. In fact, most businesses with stories starts maybe on the bed of the person that started. I work for an organization that we give grants to people. And one thing we say is that we used to do this if there is no grant. We used to follow this initiative if there is no grant. So I will really advise, because I'm asking this question not because I do with school, but I said this can really be applied to everyone. Start as small as possible. Start from exactly where you are. When that is the case, you will get to a point where people will want to invest. That business will sell itself. It will actually create a platform for itself to attract any form of investment. So that's the way I'm going to answer that. It works for every kind of business, but maybe if somebody else comes up with another kind of business, we might have to look at it on its own merit. But for that, I think starting small, because if how we describe business is the way we are going into it to meet a need, you don't have to do it big.
Yeah, but there are businesses that you need to get finance.
Okay.
For instance, a business that you need to procure some equipment, some machinery. Perhaps people want to go into preservation of agri-produce or, anything. But there definitely are businesses that need some money.
Okay.
Yeah. Startup machines.
Exactly. Even at the smallest level, but, maybe you're talking about a few millions.
The way I'll look at that is this. I should talk now as somebody who had worked in finance before. My approach to that is this, especially for the businessman. You're not looking for money. You are looking for equipment. You are looking for equipment. You made the example of agri-produce you want to preserve and all those kind of things. If I want to finance somebody who wants to be maybe a vulcanizer, let's make it very, very elementary, something right down the street, a vulcanizer. That person doesn't need money. He needs equipment. So why can't the person look for somebody who can buy those equipments for him, and that equipment becomes an investment in that business? His own ideas, his own skill about vulcanizing business, will also monetize it. It's also an investment. So because most of the time, the challenge with businessmen is that when they think about that business, the first thing that comes to their mind is money. But it's not money that they need. It's the equipment to work. If you ask me for 1 million naira, my first answer is no. But if you ask me for equipment to do, it's now making sense. Because now there's a guarantee that you're going to work. There's a guarantee that you want to work. That's why if you look at that particular line of how to start a business, see a need, hone your skill, then build partnership. Rather than going around looking for money, why don't you look for somebody who also shares your kind of passion? Somebody who, when you bring your skill to the table, the person can bring the equipment to this table. So that's the way I will answer that.
Okay. I just want to bring some context into this. For instance, our market in Nigeria is peculiar. Now, you find out we're an economy where we import a lot of things, for our basic use. And these things we import, they come with a bit of standard. Now, if you say start small, we may have the challenge of meeting those standards such that customers may not patronize whatever we're going to start producing locally, because of lack of ability to meet such standards. So how would you address that?
The issue now is there is a particular narrative in society that once you go into business, the first thing you are looking at is those who are competing with you. Right? And that's a wrong approach into business. I would rather look at it like everybody has a market share. His might be 98%. There's always a space for me. And remember, if business is not about making profit, if business is about providing a service, if business is about creating a product that meets a need, then that tension is removed. You can't do business with tension. Right? Because if this is something you enjoy, if it is something that you just believe that society needs it, it gives you an assurance that you are needed. Because you've done your due diligence that this is needed. So because you're already comparing your business to somebody who's been there. The person has paid his due, pay yours. Don't look for big patronage from day one. You see, this starting small is what is going to make you really, really an icon in years to come, because you have a story. If you listen to any businessman that doesn't have a story, don't believe him. If he doesn't have a story of failure, if he doesn't have a story of very, very difficult startup, don't listen to him. Businesses are like humans. They grow. They grow. But we want to start building the house from the roof. You know, you're already talking about importation and those kind of things. Man, start from where you are. You know, start from where you are. I work in the bank for some years. Even banks in Nigeria have a policy, maybe it's written or it's not written. They don't finance startup businesses.
No, they don't.
They don't. That's why I said there are no banks in Nigeria. We just have vaults. They just keep money in vaults. And, so that's a hostile environment, but it also presents an opportunity for us to do business correctly. Start where you are. If your customers are just 2 or 3 or whatever, cool. So it's not, you're already thinking of those who have gone ahead. You've not listened to their story, how they started.
My name is Leo Shunom. I do banking. You've talked about no banks in Nigeria.
I'm sorry, but it's the truth.
and the reality is that commercial banks in Nigeria hardly finance startup businesses.
So I wonder what to do.
Yes, but startup businesses, in some ways, they need money. Not only equipment. They need money, cash, to start. What other ways can startup business get their finances?
Let me just give you context, because you may need some staff, to help to do some things. So
staff?
Maybe just 1 or 2. And then you need to pay them salaries. You need a little bit of money to do some marketing. Marketing is expensive. But just a little bit of money, logistics. Not only equipment, So.
Okay. Now, if we are removing banks from the equation, are there other ways? You see, this might sound a bit, I've been accused of being too, being too idealistic, but that's the way I believe it works. That particular need that you have seen, that is actually giving rise to that business, you can share it with some people. Maybe I'll tell you how it works in politics, in developed countries. Politicians who seek public offices, they sit down, look at what they bring to the table, craft a vision, and they share that vision. Those who actually buy into that vision put their money in it to see that vision get realized. For that, in places where it works, it's not an investment. They're actually promoting, they're bankrolling a particular vision. It can work for business. But so you have that idea, you do your due diligence, maybe you seek the assistance of somebody who can help you put up a good proposal, and you share that vision with some people. It might not be an institution, but people of like minds that might come, and it might be little things that comes around. That takes us to the 3rd level in that journey of establishing business, about partnerships. That's something that is not common in our society. Because in our society, we want to do it alone. We want to be chairman, chief executive, chief financing officer. We need to appreciate the place of partnership. And these partners too are businessmen. So when they are coming, they are not just coming to help you do something. They want to be part of something that you are doing. So that thing becomes, now this is not just my idea. It's becoming our idea. Because you can get those staff, right? And it might be the hours that they put in that business, it might be their own investment. It might not be that you are going to pay cash for salaries. It might be the hours they put in that business that comes as an investment. So that might be a way of raising funds for it.
This example about, paying staff, it's very,
it's real.
It's real, But now you're saying get some staff that will come and work for some hours, and that's their investment. I can say that is real, but that I have not seen happen.
Somebody can pioneer it. You see, you spoke about school, right? There are some schools that start and they actually get the parents of the kids to come and serve as teachers, right? And there is a way they kneel that out, in terms of maybe the fees that they're going to pay. You see, these things work when we don't see business as a means of making money. Because what is important in that school is that kids get educated. I have a lot of friends in America who, most of these grandmothers, there is no time they don't go volunteer in the school. You know, they go volunteer in the school, especially in their children's school and all those kind of things. But the moment we see business as a means of making profit, we have this challenge of business finance. We will not be able to do these things that I'm saying. I don't have money, but I have time. Because the whole thing is, let's get this done.
Yeah.
Let's get this done. Because this business finance is not only cash. What do you need the cash for? You want to pay staff. Now you have someone that can do it. And then they can put in that, we can record it in the books that by the time we start making the money, we're going to convert this one to equity. The time that you've spent here. So there are a lot of ways. If we follow that particular procedure, see a need, right? Hone your skill to position you to be able to meet that need, then seek partners who can do it with you. Once that particular responsibility is shared, you see that business will take off. I don't know if I'm helping you guys.
This is Answers with Dr. Reju. Adams, go straight ahead.
Yeah, so do you endorse any government institution that gives loans to businesses? Do you endorse any?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good idea. For as long as the purpose of that loan going into that business, it actually also consistent with the philosophy that starts up the business. That is, the person that is starting the business to provide services, whatever loan that's been given into it should also have the provision of those services as primary, and not that the primary thing is that the business should pay us back. The business pays back, but that's secondary. That is, when that money goes into that business, it is like a joint venture. The success of that business is not measured in terms of how quickly the business pays back the money, but the extent to which that business is able to meet its goals. You know, it's like we sink together, we swim together. That is the only way, it's going to be beneficial for that business.
So that's Islamic banking.
Islamic banking is a very accurate way of banking. I was privileged to read, about Islamic banking. And to me, it is the most effective way of financing a startup business, right? Because it's swim together, sink together. Because it's not interest, but it's not interest free. They only share profits. That is, if the business doesn't make profit, nothing comes to the financier. So the financier now becomes involved. Part of the cost of the financier is that they have to also hire experts to be able to see that the business operates by its principles, that the goals of that business are met. So for me, if anybody is going into business maybe on a startup case, it's Islamic banking by its philosophy, if that is what they do, right? I don't know. If that's really what they do, if it is how it is written in the books, in the annals of the principles of Islamic banking, it is the best for a startup business. Because it's not about interest, it's about that business. The bank comes in as a co-investor. The bank is a partner. If that business goes down the drain, the risk is shared, the profit is shared. So whatever comes to the bank is based on what the business is able to generate. Because most banks that operate by this Greek and this Western, this capitalist kind of thing is whatever happens to you, make sure our money is paid back. Because when we studied banking, they said that even if there are some business that is going down, what that business needs is not pressure to pay back, is more money. But we don't see that today. There's one that I've seen that gets me worried about our banking industry. That a staff will get fired for a loan that was granted. That's criminal. That is so unethical, because that loan given to a customer is not that staff responsibility, it is the bank's decision. No single staff can grant a loan. It's unethical. The CBN should see into that the staff will be suspended or even sometimes fired because a loan went bad. That's criminal. That's so unethical.
Tell them.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Ibe. I run a boutique here in Jos.
Okay.
And my question is about the interest rates that such businesses get piled up with, be it corporate or personal. Because most times you just even go to a family member and the person still demands for interest, high interest rate. Please, how do we tackle this?
Straight ahead, I would not advise a startup business to go on that route. You want to look for people who want to journey with you. And I believe they're there. So who you are looking for is people of like interests. People who share your vision. Because it goes in the way that, the question that Adam asked, that when you take that loan, many of us don't read conditions. We don't read conditions. We just tick agree. When you take a loan from a bank, they tell you that we can review this interest without recourse to you. At no notice, we can review it. So you start the business on maybe like, if I hear, we want to talk about double-digit interests. We're not talking about single digits. Because we are talking about startup businesses. You don't want to go on that route. You want people who want to journey with you. Interest rate will naturally kill a startup business. And if you are going to meet that interest rate, your vision of providing service, you will compromise. If you take the issue of the school, that school will become prohibitive. Can't finance a startup school with fees. With fees you generate. You are going to overprice it. And you see, in places where things work, going to a private school should be something of choice, right? So, but even if it's a private school, it must still make sense. I don't know what making sense is now. Education is a right. So to start up a school and then you think about it, it's business because it's something you are busy doing. But education must never be profit-oriented. Education must always be a not-for-profit kind of initiative. But you run a boutique. How many people will still come there to come and buy a shirt? How much do you, because you have a market too that you have to compete with prices. So if yours is from a bank loan, there is no way you can't survive in that market. People will price you out. Because for you to be able to sell your clothes at that premium that will enable you to cover up for that interest, there's no way you can do it. Because there are other costs. So for startups, right, it's never look for people too who, or if you can get a supplier who can give you stock on sale on return. That's another way of doing it.
And that's partnership.
Yeah. That again is partnership. That reminds me, the other extreme that I wanted to answer for Adam's question is that we don't again give money to a business just as a dash. Like I said, if somebody comes to work, it is converted to equity, right? Those man hours. You don't give business. You can't take free money to start a business. That business will definitely fail. That's why we said, in one of our episodes said that most of the you-win businesses in Nigeria will fail. And I've advised those that I know who are beneficiaries that you-win is a political project. Is to earn some votes there. So even the procedure for beneficiaries, the way they select them, is a bit emotional, is based on sentiment, is based on man, no man, and that kind of a thing. So, but for the fact that money is a dash, it violates every principle of business. It violates it. And I've told those who I know who are beneficiaries too, you consider it as a loan, even if it's an interest-free loan, and pay it back to yourself. It might take you 5 years, it might take you 6 years, but put something aside to pay that thing back, and then you can reinvest it back in that business. If you are in business, you need a minimum level of responsibility. You need a minimum level of pressure to make you responsible before you can really do that business, excellently. That would be my take on that. It's not the right decision for a startup business to take an interest-bearing loan.
Neither is it very good for a startup business to take a dash,
Neither is it good to take a dash. Yeah. Okay. Like I said, if you get, for your boutique, if you have somebody who has stock, maybe a bigger boutique, because the way they do it, those who do this business, especially in boutique, you see a lot of these southern eastern businessmen. Somebody has worked with them, honed his skill, and then he's going to start up his own. They give him stock, right? They give him stock, and he sells and return. He sells and pay back. That stock that they give him is finance, right? It's money, but in kind. in kind. It's still finance. That to me is the most effective way of starting a business. Businesses that operate that way, they continue to expand. And you see that most of the Southern Eastern guys that are involved in this, they've done so well. They've done very well. You trace the story to the first guy that started. Maybe started in the room. Mm-hmm. But somebody wants to start a boutique, the first thing you think about is to go hire a shop. What's wrong with your bedroom? And then you carry a bag and you walk around offices and go and sell the shirts and the shoes and the socks and the belt. The last thing on your mind should be a shop. That's unnecessary cost. You know, that's the way it works. Because many times the plan for the business is so humongous that we always need money.
Okay, let's draw the curtains here. It's been an amazing time. Dr. Reju, thank you so much. You're always very insightful. And to our special guest, Mr. Ibe, Mr. Leo, and Mr. Shegun, thank you. Thank you for being on the program today. Adams, thank you. And Mr. Obi, thank you for being on the program today. Join us again on Answers with Dr. Reju, where critical life issues are clarified.